So, ladies and gentlemen, this is just extra practice that I randomly created. I was looking through questions on the final. I just decided to mirror some of those questions. Number one, right here on this extra practice, you guys don't have this, but if you'd like, copy it down in your notebook. It'd be a good idea. You have this equation, 9r equals 12s minus 9r plus 6s. They want you to solve for s. Okay? So whenever they tell you to solve for any variable, that means to get that variable by itself. Abria? So what do I need to get by itself? I need to get s by itself. S by itself. Now, ladies and gentlemen, even before trying to isolate on an equation when you solve, if you see an equation and you could simplify it, you simplify it. What does simplify mean? Any combining like terms or any distributed property. So there is combining like terms on the right side of this equal sign. So we could actually combine the 12s with the 6s and we'll get 18s. We still have minus 9r that comes down the equal sign and the 9r. So they are telling us to solve for s. Here's s. I need to get s by itself on one side. So let's get rid of the minus 9r by doing the opposite, plus 9r. That'll cancel out. What you do to one side, you do to the other, plus 9r. Over here it does not cancel. Over here, 9r plus 9r. You could actually do that, Caden. And that's 18r. And 18r equals 18s. Now, what are we solving for again? For s. We want to get s by itself. So this is really 18 times s. I need to get rid of the multiplication of 18 in front of the s. I want s by itself. So when I divide by 18 and I divide by 18, the 18s cancel, but over here the 18s also cancel. That does not mean that the answer is 0. It does not mean that the answer is 1. It means that the s is now by itself, and that's your goal when you solve for s. So s is by itself, s equals, and on the left side, it really is 1r. But you don't have to put 1r, you could just put r. So r equals s, but again, they want you to solve for s, so you want to say s equals r in that case. Now, that one's a really straightforward, basic, easy equation, but I see a lot of students get confused when you end up with something simple like this. It's just one letter equals another letter, and that's it. Let's try a different question that I mirrored from the final. This is way back, like the first month of school, right, where we use PEMDAS to evaluate. So PEMDAS, parentheses first, that tells you to zoom in and do whatever you can inside here. How many operations are inside the parentheses? Two operations. There's a minus and an exponent, right? So subtraction and exponents. Out of those two, which one do you do first? Exponents. So let's all go to 2 to the third. And what do I get when I do 2 to the third? Do I get 16? Do I get 6? Do I get 4? What do I get? I get 8, right? 2 to the third is really 2 times 2 times 2. So 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. So I recommend do one step, rewrite the rest. So we're still inside of the parentheses. We still have the 14 and still have the minus. 14 minus 8 is 6. So we have a 6 inside the parentheses. Now I'm still going to bring down everything. Ladies and gentlemen, it's very important that we put those parentheses, because if you didn't put the parentheses, all right, like let's say you didn't write these parentheses, you would think that that's a 46 instead of a 4 times 6. So I would just keep the parentheses right there so it'll remind you that you're really multiplying 4 times 6. Let me bring down the rest. We still have a plus 12 and a divided by 4. Okay, so we've done parentheses. Even though we still have the parentheses, there's nothing to do in there. After parentheses, we have e exponents, which there are no exponents. There was inside, but there are no more exponents. Then we go to m. So it's PEMDAS, P-E-M, multiplication. Is there any multiplication here? Yes, 4 times 6. Now what is 4 times 6? That's 24. So I write down 24. Let me rewrite the rest. Plus 12 divided by 4. What's my next step? You divide. 12 divided by 4 is 3, and 24 plus 3 equals 27. Easy stuff. So I hope we remember how to do this work from a long time ago. This is from the first month of school. Let's try number 3 over here. Here's another word problem similar to the one you're going to see on the test tomorrow. In 2010, Walmart sold 12,000 cell phones. And we're talking about a certain store, not the whole chain. In 2018, they sold 19,336 cell phones. What's the rate of change in the number of cell phones sold? So we should all really underline rate of change, because that is what tells you what to do. What does rate of change really mean? Anybody? Slope. Rate of change is M. Okay, that's what we're looking for. Rate of change is slope. If you don't know that, you're not going to know what to do with this problem. So the rate of change is slope. They're telling you, what is the rate of change? They're asking you, what is the slope? And how do we find slope? Well, we find slope with the slope formula. M equals y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. This is one of the many formulas that you need to have memorized by tomorrow, right? So we know how to use the slope formula. Hopefully you have it memorized. The problem is we need two coordinates. We need two coordinates to actually plug in to this formula. 12,000 and 19,000? Okay, so how about this? Let's start by doing this. Let me write down a coordinate right here. And let me write down a coordinate right here. Now, what am I going to put in the first coordinate? I need two values, an x value and a y value. 2010 and what else? And 12,000, right? What happened in 2010? They sold 12,000. So that makes perfect sense for a coordinate in terms of x and y. Not only that, whenever you're dealing with a x, y value, x is usually always time, okay? So let's make an x, y value here. The x value is 2010, and the y value is 12,000. And for the other coordinate, what's the other coordinate going to be? 2018, and the y value? 19,336. Okay, so we have our x, our y, that's our first point. This is our x and our y from our second point. And now we could freely plug in these values. Y2 is 19,336. Y1 is 12,000. X2 is 2018. And X1 is 2010. Okay, so let's actually do this math with the calculator. So we're going to go 19,336 minus 12,000. The answer is 7,000. So up on top, let me do it in black here. Up on top we have 7,336. And on the bottom, 2018, take away 2010, that's going to be 8 years, right? So on the bottom we have 8. Now that is the correct slope, but we need to reduce if possible. And if you take your calculator and do 7,336 divided by 8, you will get 917. So the answer to this word problem, what is the rate of change? There was 917 cell phones per year. Actually, let's not even put cell phones, just 917 per year. Now what that means is 917 more each year, right, per year. So there was a rate of change of 917 per year. So that is the answer. There's going to be a problem like this on the final. It's not a difficult problem. It's just, I know if you're not comfortable with it, you're going to just freak out when you see this word problem. Don't freak out. It's easy. All you have to do is make two easy coordinates. The year is your x value. How much you sold is your y value. The year is your x value. How much you sold is your y value. Those are your two coordinates. Plug it into the slope formula, and you're done. So it's too easy of a question for you guys to get freaked out on just because it's a word problem. That's why I'm doing another example for you, so you'll be comfortable and you'll know what to do when you see this type of problem tomorrow. Let's move on to number 4 over here. Here's another one that I know some students freak out with because they see tables and they freak out, right? The number of students seated in each row of an auditorium form an arithmetic sequence. I'm sorry, can't read. So this is an arithmetic sequence. and they tell you that in the first row you have 7 students. In the second row there's more, there's 11. In the third row there's more, there's 15. Okay? So what we need to do is, first of all, come up with the a sub nth rule, and we need to have that memorized, just like the slope formula we had to have memorized. The a sub nth rule is a sub n equals a sub 1 plus parenthesis n minus 1 times a common difference d. And all you're really plugging in is a sub 1, which is your first value, and common difference, which you find by taking a number and taking away the previous number from it. Okay? So, do we know our a sub 1? What's the a sub 1? What's our first term? How many students are on the first row, guys? 7. Okay, so a sub 1 is 7. Do we have a common difference d? 4. 15 take away 11, that's 4. 11 take away 7, that's 4. So the common difference is 4. Okay, not minus 4, it's actually 4. You have to actually pick a number and subtract the previous number from it. 15 take away 11 is 4. 11 take away 7 is 4. So now we know our a sub 1 and we know our d. We could plug in the a sub 1 right here and the d right there, and that'll be the a sub nth rule. So let me do it right here. A sub n, the a sub nth rule will be a sub 1, which is the number 7, plus n minus 1 times the common difference, which happens to be 4. Now, this is the answer, but you're not going to see that answer on the multiple choice because they're going to simplify it. What does simplify mean? It means do distributive property, combine like terms, make it look nicer, simplify it, right? So we're going to distribute 4 times n, that's 4n, to make it look nicer. 4 times negative 1, that's negative 4. And let's bring down the plus and the 7. Now, out of those 3 terms, I could combine the 7 minus 4, and you do this in your head. What's 7 take away 4? 3. So what we really have here is a sub n equals 4n plus 3. Now, this is the a sub nth rule that you will see on your multiple choice. In addition to that, they ask this extra question right here. It says, how many students are there in the 17th row? How do we figure that out? How many students are in the 17th row? Plug in 17, right? If this is a sub 1, which is 7, a sub 2, which is 11, a sub 3, which is 15, you got to keep going till you get to the 17th number. So all you have to do is plug in 17, a sub 17, and that's just the name. Actually, this you don't even need, that's just the name. Where you're really plugging in is right here. 4 times 17 plus 3. So 4 times 17 is 68, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. Plus 3. And 68 plus 3 is 71. So on the 17th row, there's going to be 71 students. If it continues to increase, which it does because they say it's arithmetic. So the answer is the a sub nth rule, which is right here, and the answer itself, that in the 17th row, there's going to be 71 students. So don't freak out with that one. There's going to be one almost identical to that on the final. How about this one's a fun one that I know some people will mess up on. Okay, so number 5, during a rainy day, it rained heavily for a while, then it stopped, then it rained lightly for a while, and then it stopped. It says, please sketch a graph that represents this when your x-axis is time and your y-axis is total rainfall. Ladies and gentlemen, let's make an xy plane where the x-axis, the one that runs left to right, is time, and the y-axis is total rainfall. That's ugly. Sorry. But this guy's total rainfall. This is time. I don't know if you want to put hours. You can put like 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, right? And then total rainfall, you could say inches, right? 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch, 4 inch, 5, okay? Now, during a rainy day, it rained heavily for a while, then it stopped. Okay, so when it started raining, before it even started raining, you were here, right? Now, what does it mean that it rained heavily? A lot. So it rained a lot and it rained pretty fast, right? That doesn't mean that it rained lightly for a long time, for 4 hours. It means that it rained a lot fast. Rained heavily means that within 1 hour, it was a lot of rain. So let's go pretty steep here. Within 1 hour, let's say 3 inches of rain. Okay, that's heavy rain right there. Okay, so it rained heavily for a while. That's that first part. Now, then it stopped. What does that mean? That this goes back down? No, it stays the same because it's total rainfall. So it's going to stay the same maybe for, let's say it stopped for an hour or so, or maybe 2 hours. I don't know, it stopped. Okay? And then it says, then, wait, no, I'm sorry. Let me erase that. It says, then it rained lightly. Then it rained lightly for a while. What is lightly rained? Little bit, right? Yeah, a little bit. So if it's a light flow, okay, this is that it stopped, right? Okay, it rained, there's 3 inches so far. The water's not going to magically disappear. So it stayed there. Now it rained lightly. What does that mean? That it went up just like at a gradual slope, lightly. Does that make sense? No. Yes. And then it stopped, right? Check out this part. It says, then it stopped again. Stopping again means it flattens out again. So that would be an appropriate graph right there. Okay? Very important that we understand. Heavy rain, that means steep. Stop, that means it's parallel with the x-axis because there's no more rain. It stopped for a couple hours. And then it rained lightly. That means it is going up. There is a little bit more rain, but it's over a long period of time. It's raining lightly. Compare this heavy rainfall with this light rainfall. This is a steep slope. This is a very small slope. Does that make sense? And again, it flattens out. It stops. At the end, it stops. So during this rainy day, it rained a total of 4 inches. Right? That's a lot of rain for the Imperial Valley, if you think about it that way. The heavy rain was the first hour, and then it stopped for a couple hours. Then it lightly rained, and then it stopped. And that's it, total of 4 inches of rain. So I hope we're able to understand this graph. Obviously, there's going to be different graphs. You need to be able to identify which one represents the situation they give you. Number 6. Write the slope-intercept form of the equation that passes through the given point and is parallel to the graph of the equation. So they want a slope-intercept form. What is that slope-intercept form? Y equals mx plus b. What are the two things that we need to write a slope-intercept form equation? What are the two things you need? A slope and a y-intercept, an m and a b. Now, they obviously don't tell us our slope. They tell us indirectly our slope, and they don't tell us our b either. They give us a coordinate. Because it says, write a slope-intercept form equation that passes through the given point. So this is a point that your line is going to pass through. So you know for a fact that your equation is going to have an answer of x being -3 and y being -2. Okay. And then it says it passes through the given point and is parallel. Here's a big word, guys. Parallel. What does that mean? What does parallel mean? Same m value. So what's parallel? The given equation. They give you this equation, and your equation is going to have the same slope as this equation. Ladies and gentlemen, the only thing that you care about is that you identify this slope. That slope is -2, and if we have the word parallel, that means that our slope is also going to be -2. Now, if this word would have been perpendicular, then this would not be the same as -2. It would actually be the opposite reciprocal. It would be +1/2. We need to know that because there's going to be one of each question on the final tomorrow. Parallel means same slope. Perpendicular means opposite reciprocal. So the only thing that you look at from this equation is the slope. After you get that the m is -2, after you get this part, you don't need to look at this equation anymore. You could just cross it out. Once you already have that your slope is -2, you could just cross it out. Okay, so once again, I indirectly have my slope by knowing the definition of parallel. That means the same slope. I have a point, which is an x and y value. I still need my b value. So let's all plug it in. to y equals mx plus b. Instead of y, I'm going to put negative 2 equals, instead of m, I'm going to put negative 2 times x. Instead of x, I'm going to put negative 3 plus b. Let's solve this equation so we could find the b value. It's going to be negative 2 equals 6 plus b. Subtract 6. We're going to have negative 2 minus 6, that's negative 8 equals b. So the b value is negative 8. Once you have the m and the b, now you could actually write your equation in y equals mx plus b form. So your answer is y equals negative 2x minus 8. Y equals negative 2x minus 8. All right, guys, this is already a 20-minute video. I apologize, but this is another 6 questions that I just created. I mirrored from looking at the final just a couple hours ago. So please study this as well as your practice final.